Hi everyone, in this guide I'm going to share my insights on how to optimize Sion's build and runes in order to help you climb. First, here are my credentials. My name is Hajro. I'm a Diamond Sion OTP with over 700,000 mastery points. I've been playing this champion since season 13 and I've maintained a high emerald to low diamond rank across multiple seasons. If you need a more in-depth guide on Sion as a champion, including explanations to his spells, combos, strengths and weaknesses, you can take a look at my season 14 guide which covers these topics as well. Sion is a powerful battle tank who is primarily played in the top lane. Contrary to popular belief, due to his infinite HP stacking, Sion is not a late game champion but a mid game champion, as shown by this win rate versus game length graph from LoLalytics in patch 15.6. You can see that his win rate is very low early, average to low and late, but hits a big spike during the mid game between 15 and 25 minutes. This correlates to Sion's weak laning phase and the fact that he does get outscaled by percent HP damage in the late game. He is however an absolute unit in the mid game if you farm well and don't fall behind in the laning phase. For this reason, I believe that in season 15 it is important to take tools to help with his early game. This means that you are able to reach the mid game in the best conditions possible and be at your strongest to carry. First, as a starting item, Doran's shield should be picked 100% of the time. This item, combined with second wind, gives you great sustain in the laning phase on top of Sion's recent health regen buff in patch 15.4, which makes you quite hard to poke out of lane. Now, I believe that going Heartsteel as a first item is not optimal on Sion. As opposed to champions like Dr. Mundo, Tahm Kench and Skarner, whose damage scales directly with HP, Sion's damage comes from AD or item passives. Furthermore, due to the recent nerf to Heartsteel in patch 15.4, the difference between rushing or delaying the item is even smaller than before. To answer this, I prefer starting with an emulate item such as Sunfire or Hollow Radiance, or Iceborne Gauntlet against certain opponents. The common points between all these items are the fact that they give solid early game damage, coherent build paths for the laning phase, and good utility, be it wave clear or Iceborne slow feel. These items' effects also ensure you can contest objectives and push waves faster to help with void grubs or general skirmishes in the top side of the map. Sunfire Aegis should be built versus melee AD champions like Aatrox, Darius, Set and Ambessa, whereas Iceborne will be stronger against ranged AD champions like Jace, Gnar, Quinn and Akshan. Hollow Radiance can be built against any AP champion, melee or ranged, such as Mordekaiser, Gwen, Cassiopeia and Teemo. You should be able to finish building these items at around 12 to 14 minutes on average, after which you transition into building Heartsteel as your second item. This means that at around 20 minutes you'll be hitting Sion's general win rate spike with a build consisting of a resistance item and Heartsteel. Indeed, Heartsteel goes well in this build slot since you will complement the resistances you've built early with a big HP pool. You will also get stronger damage and HP gain from Heartsteel than the average champion due to your W passive HP. Also, at this point, most carries will not have enough damage to kill you fast enough, meaning your tanking abilities will be strong at this point in the game. When your 2-item spike is done, you should then generally build Unending Despair. This item has been changed a lot since the beginning of the season, but the current iteration gives you dual resists, some HP and some ability haste, all stats which are great on a third item. The changes to the item's effects have also ensured Unending Despair should be built in the mid game, which slots in perfectly as a third item for our build. Finally, your last 2 items will depend on the enemy team's composition and your own role in the game. For general tankiness, Jackro the Protean is a good choice since it will give you a lot of resistances which will complement your big HP pool. If you need more damage, Overlord's Bloodmail is great to convert all the HP you have in stronger auto attacks and Qs. For situational cases, Thornmail is good to reduce healing, Randwinds is relevant when the enemy team has at least 2 or 3 crit users, Cane Crookhorn is a good MR item to resist burst, and Spirit Visage is ideal when fights are long enough that you can use W and heal with Unending Despair procs multiple times. Now that we've covered builds, let's talk about the best runes to complement them. First, I divide Sion matchups into 3 main categories. Generic melee champions where you're able to trade auto attacks frequently and stack up your Grasp of the Undying. Ranged champions where you cannot trade auto attacks so you are looking to use your spells to trade. In that case, Arcane Comet is the choice I go for. And dangerous melee champions which you try to avoid interacting with and can run you down easily. Here, Phase Rush is useful to stay safe. Grasp is the top lane tank's best default rune since it gives you trading power through damage and healing, as well as some free bonus HP when you proc it. Shield Bash is my personal choice ever since it has been buffed in season 14, giving you damage scaling with your shield and max HP, every time you use W. This rune helps a lot in the early game and gives me more value than Demolish with my playstyle. Second Wind is my go-to rune since it helps with your lane sustain, and due to its missing HP scaling, scales really well on a health stacker like Sion. With my playstyle, it is better than conditioning, since taking conditioning basically means you are playing with one less rune in the early game. Overgrowth is a no-brainer for a health stacker like Sion. Free bonus HP will help you with your immolate damage, heartsteel damage, W shield, and shield bash damage, etc. Mana Flow Band solves all the early game mana problems that Sion has. Generally he is fine without a mana rune after level 9, but my goal is to play the laning phase as much as possible, and mana is important to do so. Transcendence helps with the low amount of ability haste tank items give in Season 15. This rune also helps in teamfights starting at level 11 due to the cooldown reduction it gives to your basic spells when getting a takedown. Arcane Comet and Scorch give you damage when landing your abilities. Your Q and E both guarantee a Comet to land, similar to a Malphite Q or a Cho'Gath Q. This gives you a surprisingly good damage output in the early levels and helps your lane versus ranged champions a lot. Mana Flow Band, Transcendence, Second Wind, and Overgrowth serve the same purpose as in the Grasp of the Undying rune page. Phase Rush grants you move speed and slow resistance when activated, allowing to escape from spells like Olaf Q, Darius W, etc. Bami's Cinder counts as a proc, so after buying it you only need 2 damage instances to proc Phase Rush. We take Shield Bash here, as you can proc Shield Bash much more reliably than versus a ranged champion. For rune shards, I almost always take attack speed, adaptive force, and scaling HP. Attack speed gives you a lot of quality of life during the laning phase, helping with trades and last hitting. Adaptive force gives you more AD to hit harder on your auto attacks in Q. And scaling health is my default, but if you're in a matchup with a lot of CC and slows, such as Gragas, Karma, Kennen, and Twisted Fate, then the Tenacity rune shard can help a little. Finally, I've created my own Sion matchup spreadsheet in which I have documented every top lane matchup. The link to the spreadsheet can easily be found in the description of all my videos. First, I summarized the rune choices for the main matchup categories I presented earlier, as well as my general build flowchart, and a link to my Season 14 guide, which I will update to the Season 15 guide once this video has been uploaded. The matchups are sorted in alphabetical order, and list my rune choice, build path with recommended boots and components, as well as a list of gameplay tips I try to apply against that specific champion. If you look at Aatrox for instance, you can see that I like going the Grasp of the Undying rune page, since he is a melee champion with which I tend to trade a lot. Generally, Swiftness boots are good against him to dodge his spells and walk out of his W, and Bramble Vest is a strong pickup to reduce his healing. Ultimately, my build consists of Sunfire, Heartsteel, and Unending Despair. In my gameplay tips, I mentioned that movement speed is key for Aatrox's spells. I also talk about the trading patterns I use depending on the cooldowns he has, and the spacing that can generally be used to avoid getting hit by his Q sweet spots. Finally, I mentioned the necessity of anti-heal. I will do my best to update my spreadsheet throughout the season and make new informative videos on Sion when some new changes come out, such as buffs or nerfs to him or his items. That's all I have for today guys, thanks a lot for watching this video and see you next time.